In this problem, we're asked to construct a frequency distribution for the data set using the indicated number of classes. In other words, we would like to group this data into classes and then tally it up and see how many of the data values fall into each class. So what we'll need to do first is calculate the class width, and the trick to calculating the class width is determining what the highest value in the data set is, the maximum, and what the lowest data value in the set is, the minimum. In other words, we'd like to know how spread apart the data are from the very highest to the very lowest, so we subtract them. And then we'll take that distance and divide it into 8 sections, and that will be our 8 classes. One other thing to keep in mind with this formula is we always round up to the next whole number no matter what decimal we get. Even if it's 0.1, we're going to round it up. So in the data set, we'll want to look through and find the maximum or highest value. Looks like that's the 2,299. And then we also need to identify the lowest or minimum value, which in this case is the 1,250. So let's subtract 2299 minus 1250, and that result will get divided by 8. I'm going to put some parentheses around those subtraction numbers so I can do that all at once on my calculator. So we get 131.125, which we're going to round up to the next whole number as 132. Even though 0.1 would usually round down, in this case we want to go up no matter what. So then to start our 8 classes, we'll begin at our minimum number, 1250. So we'll start at the minimum. Although we will not probably end at the maximum, instead what we want to do from the minimum is add on their class width. So we want to take 1250, add on that 132, and that will let us know the lower limit for the next class. Remember, for class width on the chart, you subtract up and down, so when we add it on, we're also going up and down. That gives us the next lower class limit. And when I continue to add on 132s, that will give me this first column of numbers. So plus 132 takes me all the way down. So starting from our minimum and adding on the class width gives us all of our lower class limits. To then determine where each class should end, in other words, to find the upper class limits, we just want to think about where this class would need to end if the next one's going to start at 1382. So if the second class starts at 1382, the first one must have ended at 1381 because we don't want to leave any gaps. So the very next number should be where the next class starts. In other words, we're just going to go back one. So the second class must have ended at 1513. And we can continue to do that. Go back one, back it up. Or at any time we like, we can also start adding the class width on to this column of numbers, and that will find all of the upper class limits. So once I know 1381, I could start adding on 132 and get the number below it and below that. So, and again, straight down like we did on the left side. So it turns out in this case the classes end at 2305. And notice that is not exactly our maximum, but it is far enough so that the maximum is included. So it's looking good. 1250 was our min, 2299 was our max. So what we want to do now is take each data value one at a time and determine which class it would fall in. 1717 would be in the 4th class because it's between 1646 and 1777, so let's make a tally mark there. 1444 would be in the 2nd class since it's between 1382 and 1513. 1960 would be in the 6th class. And we want to keep making our way through the data, making a tally mark for each and every one. So once we're done tallying all the data, we'll count up those tally marks and we'll have our frequencies. I'm coming up with 2, 3, 6, 2, 3, 2, 1, and 1 for my frequencies. I'm going to add those up real quick and make sure that I have all 20 represented, just as a little bit of a check. And does add up to 20, so looking good.